I was there. I held her hand and I watched her as she took her last inhale. And when she let go, I made that sound that comes from the very bottom of me. It was a wail, a prayer. And in that moment, I said, "Hello, my precious mommy." And I knew that there would be no answer in the way that I had known before. We're going to talk about grief and loss on a spiritual remedy. Welcome to A Spiritual Remedy. My name is Sunshine Day. And today's topic is one that is so tender, as I am now experiencing loss and want to simply give a real-time experience of how this really works real time. So what I can share with you is that sound that I made, that wail, that release was everything. And I can't intellectualize the magnitude of that instant. And in my conversations with many people who've experienced the loss of a mother, it's nothing to intellectualize. My mom used to tell me, "I love you more than you will ever know." What does that even mean when I can't even touch her or test or hear her voice? And not knowing how much she loved me, like that is its own ache all by itself. And, I discovered right there that knowing life is eternal isn't a force field against sorrow. Eternality doesn't make you unbreakable. It just simply holds this promise that there's more of the unknown to know. And it doesn't take away the sting of that moment. I know that so many well-meaning people will say words, and I just need to take that as they're simply trying to comfort me. And that life is eternal is one that intellectually might bring comfort, but in that moment, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? I mean, in my body, what I noticed was this electric feeling. I noticed that the moment my mom died, I was holding my breath. My stomach was jittery. I had a tight chest. And when the overwhelm hit, I came back to the breath. Not only because it was going to help escape grief in that moment, but it was actually to allow grief to move through my body and to move through me and to let it flow. And I would breathe in through my nose, like smell the roses, and blow out the candle. Smell the roses, blow out the candles. And that simple breathing cycle grounded me. It grounded me enough to go through the day to do the next indicated thing. Now, I didn't reach for a drink or a drug, and I didn't even consciously think about it. Yet in those hours, what I wanted was some relief. And of course, that pain is so heavy. And so I sought relief in being present with my grief, with my pain. I had my sister there. My beloved Sunny Day of 27 years was there with me in those moments. And afterwards, I reached out to other sober people my sober guide. I texted, I called, I gathered in group, and I allowed people to hold me so that I can keep holding on to my life, to my sobriety, to my spirituality, so that I can move through the deep, deep pain. Now, that wasn't this like grand choice. It was just practical. It was just gentle, and for sure, I'll call it life-saving. You know, when my mom left the body temple, there was a level of relief that surprised me. I felt relief knowing that she was no longer in pain, that pain that she had been carrying for so many years. And I felt relief because she wasn't suffering anymore. And yet I felt this deep, deep sorrow that swallowed me whole. And I was just amazed at how those two things could live simultaneously in my body. And that vocal cry, that wail, it was both a prayer and a release. And the silence that followed was like a meditation. And for those minutes beside her, next to my sunny day and right across from my sister, I listened as much as I prayed. On the drive to the airport to return the car to come back home, I found myself crying and yelling in the car, "Not my mom, not my mom." And I realized in that moment that I had this hidden expectation that my mother would always be there for me in the physical form. What a light bulb moment. Because letting go of that expectation is a part of my healing. It's a part of the revealing that there was something within me that is keeping me tethered. And I learned in that moment of just simply allowing myself to cry and say those words out loud is that releasing is not erasing her, but it's simply releasing the ideas that no longer serve me. And it's also learning to meet mom in a different way than I ever have. Meeting her in my memories and in the small signs of life, like a sunrise or a bird's nest, or like yesterday, being on an elementary school campus with young children, like my mom so enjoyed in her later years of life. And for me, that's all spirit. That's all higher power. That's how life continues to show up. That is the eternal life, the eternality of life. And you know, as I was grieving, my brain, and I'm still grieving, by the way, it hasn't stopped. My brain, trying to figure out stuff. That's what our brain, this gray matter, this 15-pound mass underneath this skull, that's what it does. It tries to figure out why and what happened and what could have been done. And in that racing mind of mine, I was reminded of something that I remind you of often, which is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 sensory exercise. And I allowed myself to name 5 things I saw in the room and 4 things that I could hear, and actually to touch 3 things. And what 2 things could I smell and 1 thing that I could taste. And it just got me back into the body, and it got me out of trying to solve this mystery in my mind. And there I was back in my body so that I can smell the roses and blow out the candle. My pickleball group sent me flowers, and my mom's massage therapist called, and wow, as much as I am the one who helps others, I learned, and I am still learning, to allow myself to be helped. I didn't post on social media because I wasn't ready for the flood of inquiries and messages. But my friend Red says, at a party, you don't have to dance with everybody, but you got to dance with somebody. And that absolutely reminded me that I don't have to tell the whole world, but I get to reach for those steady hands of those people in my life that are steady and remind me of the truth of who I am and who my mom is. Now, the loss of my mom, it's the most meaningful relationship I ever had. And it's worth living sober for. And I choose spirituality and sobriety because it helps me to honestly grieve and to receive support and to do the daily spiritual practices that steer me in the direction to live my life fully and to be fully present. So if you're experiencing grief now or have, or as we all will in the future, sometimes we might be tempted to reach out for substances or behaviors that don't really serve us. Well, first reach out by wailing and have that be your prayer, and have your silence be the meditation, and reach out to dance with somebody, and tell that sober soul, that sober person, what you need. What I'm trusting is that we're all held in the breathing, in the people that will come and in the people who will silently stand next to us. I know that I will continue to carry my mom's love with me everywhere I go. And if you find yourself wailing, let that be your prayer. And if you find yourself in the silence, let that be the meditation of your heart. And when you can't imagine moving forward, move just one breath at a time. Because really, that's how we get to live sober. If this message has touched you in any way, or if you need additional support, even though I am experiencing my own process in this moment, please reach out. We're here to support one another and to be in community. And it would be my great honor to walk you through your own grief and stay sober throughout it. Until the next time, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for being my witness to my grief and how we move through it together. Bye for now.